Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. And today I'm going to be talking about the polling institutions. But first I have to tell you guys about my friends over at My Patriot Supply. No matter where you live, you're facing some real challenges right now. There's too much unrest and too much uncertainty. In some spots, it's not even safe to go to the corner store, and that makes getting food a problem. If things don't get better, will you have enough food to eat in the weeks and months ahead? Because many folks won't. But those who act now and get at least a 4-week supply of emergency food shipped to them fast will be the ones who survive. And that's why I strongly recommend My Patriot Supply, the only source I personally use and trust for my emergency food preparedness plan, and you should too. They're the go-to experts in emergency preparedness, and their mission is your survival. Right now, you can save $100 off a full 4-week supply of their tasty meals that supply 2,000 calories a day. This will save your life if food disappears from the grocery store shelves again. And saving $100 is impossible to pass up, so go to preparewithredigal.com and get ready now. That's preparewithredigal.com. Do it today. And the 2020 election, we're still going through the process, and we're going to be taking a look at what went down in the polling institutions of this election. Donald Trump very well could still win. Again, we're going to audit. We're not going to give up yet. That's what losers do. We're not losers. We're winners no matter the outcome. And just try to remember that, because in the end, we win because God is on our side. So it's important to look at what the pollsters were actually saying before the election. They said Trump had a 10% chance to win. That's what Nate Silver, or as I like to say, Nate Plastic over at 527 said. But the odds currently in Predict It right now have Trump at a 15% chance. Again, that's higher than Nate Plastic had Trump at on election night. Very interesting to look at. And a lot went down this election cycle. And once again, I was right, and they were wrong, and a lot of people are going to try and dispute that, but I'm going to explain exactly why that is. I gave Donald Trump a 55% chance to win or so, and he very may still win this election. Either way, it was extremely close, and the polls missed far more this cycle than they missed last cycle. And 538 is what we're going to be using, because that is exactly what the left was citing. They said Real Clear Politics was Republican propaganda because one of their editors shared some edgy memes on Facebook. Oh, big deal. But either way, we're going to take a look at this again, and obviously we're going to be analyzing their forecast. And clearly we're going to look through the Senate and through the House as well. But either way, looking at the presidential election here, it does seem like they gave Donald Trump no chance to win the election. So far, they've only gotten 2 states and 1 district wrong, but that does not make them the most accurate pollster of this election cycle, especially because the propaganda that they have been pushing has led to potential voter suppression, actual voter suppression, not like what the Democrats like to claim, actual voter suppression. So we're going to look here, and we're first going to look at the popular vote. 538 gave Joe Biden an 8% advantage in the popular vote over Donald Trump, an 8% advantage. Looking at the election here, Donald Trump is down in the popular vote by 3.4%. I had him at 3.8%. I think my prediction may be on point, 100% completely on point. So already there is an error there. When you have a massive failure in the popular vote, you're getting it wrong by around 4%. Obviously, there are a lot of Democrat votes still left to tabulate in places like New York and places like Illinois. There's also some Republican votes to tabulate in some of these red states here. So there will be more votes added to the column. Biden is probably going to be leading by around 4%. When 100% of the votes are tabulated, they still have roughly 3% of the votes remaining to tabulate across a multitude of states here. So that is important to take a look at and understand that they were vastly off. They were miserably off. The chances of winning, this is not an election map here. And again, Trump did win North Carolina. They called it in the AP. So 232 to 279 right now, even though I think Trump may be at a little bit more than that. I think Trump genuinely did win Wisconsin. I talked about that in the last video, which I would encourage everyone to watch after they watch this video. But talking about Wisconsin, it's important. We'll get to this in a second because it's a very important thing that we're going to touch on. But the popular vote is one thing. And on top of that, it's important to analyze their state calls here, because even though they got some states right, like Montana and South Carolina, for an example, they were way off. I said Trump would win all of these states up here by more than 10. Nate Silver thought that Indiana would be a 10-point win, just a 10-point win for Biden. Trump won it by 16. Montana would be within 7. Trump won it by almost 17 points up in Montana. If you look at the forecast here, he had the state of South Carolina being a 7.5% win for Donald Trump. Donald Trump won it by almost 12%. So already you can see massive failures in some of these deep red states. Again, a lot of Democrats said they hoped to win Kansas. I said Trump would win it by at least 12. Trump won Kansas by over 15%. Same thing with Missouri. If you look at this here, they had Missouri as a 9.5-point win for Trump. Donald Trump won Missouri by almost 16 percentage points. So he did regress a couple points from last cycle in some of these states, but he still held on with a massive, insurmountable margin. A lot of the claims we heard were laughable, but because the media is able to frame this so far as a Biden victory, they're letting Nate Silver get away with malpractice. Every single state had a polling error. Every single key state had a polling error in favor of the Democrats except for Georgia. This cannot happen. That is not some honest error. These pollsters are setting a specific agenda, and it needs to stop, because over and over and over again, we deal with this year after year where the polls are fundamentally flawed. They're fundamentally skewed in one direction over and over again. If you want to analyze other states here, Texas, he had it as a 1 to 2 point win. I said Trump would win it by at least 4. Donald Trump has almost won Texas by 6, partially due to a big, massive surge among Latinos in the southern part of the state. Iowa and Ohio, he had his pure toss-ups, Trump winning, but just barely in both states. Donald Trump has won Ohio and Iowa by 8%, even outperforming my expectations and even outperforming Trafalgar's expectations. And we're going to talk about Trafalgar when we get to Wisconsin. But diving into this here, Florida, he had as a 2.5-point win for Biden. Donald Trump won Florida by 3.5 points. So already you can see the massive errors, and I had Trump winning Florida by a lean margin. He did win it by a lean margin. You look at states like Pennsylvania, he said Biden would win it by 5. They haven't fully counted the votes in Pennsylvania, but Biden is up by less than 1%. That is pre-audit. We'll see what happens, but either way, massive failure on the part of the pollsters, massive failure in part of Nate Silver's model, which actually added other fundamentals to their polls, and they actually kind of boosted what they thought Trump would do, and they still got it massively wrong. Looking at a state like Nevada, they had Biden up by 6. Biden has won Nevada. It looks like he's going to win it by roughly 2. That's roughly what I had Biden winning Nevada at. Looking at Arizona, they had Biden winning by 2. They haven't called Arizona. It's looking like Biden may hang on, but it's going to be by the skin of his teeth. Again, Fox News was very wrong for calling the state when they did. It's going to be likely within 10,000 votes either way in the state of Arizona. Looking at the state of North Carolina, they said Biden would win it by 2. So far, Trump is up by roughly 2%. I said Trump would win by roughly 2 to 3. And again, my prediction was right in 48 out of 54 states and districts, more so than Nate Silver's was margin-wise. That's important to take into consideration. He had Donald Trump losing Maine's 2nd District by 2%. Maine's 2nd District ended up going for Trump by 7%. Already you can see massive failures starting to add up for Mr. Plastic over here, and he should be out of a job because this is malpractice. Meanwhile, you have Twitter suspending People's Pundit, which is Richard Barris, who runs a much more accurate polling firm. Yes, they did give him his account back, but the fact that it was suspended in the first place is a disgrace to begin with. So you can look at this here. Definitely a lot more errors here, and we could start with the state of Michigan. Again, they said Biden would win Michigan by 8%. They said Biden would win Michigan by 8. A lot of the polls said Biden would win Michigan by 8. Biden has won by 2 to 3. Trafalgar was more accurate than every mainstream poll or university poll. Now, Susquehanna Insider Advantage actually nailed the margin. They are a different right-leaning firm, and they said Biden would win by 2. It was by far the most close poll in the state. So again, Trafalgar is no longer the gold standard for Michigan, but they may be for Wisconsin. And this is definitely something to look at because Nate Plastic's model had Joe Biden winning Wisconsin by close to 9 percentage points. Nate Silver wrote an article defending a garbage poll, which he gives an A+ rating to. So all the ratings, throw them out the window. They don't matter. The poll that came out of ABC, which is Nate Plastic's own poll because he does work for ABC, they said Biden was going to win Wisconsin by 17 points. And when you say you're going to win something by 17, the other side starts to get demoralized. There was a study out of University of Toronto, McGill, which is basically the Harvard of Canada, saying that polls may lead people not to vote for a given party because that party is perceived to be unlikely to win. Again, people don't really want to come out and vote when their side is down 20 points. However, when their side is up 20, they are more enthused to come out and vote. This is also why campaigns release internals where their polls look better for them than you would usually expect because it energizes the base. It really doesn't make them complacent. You're complacent when you're up by 50 or so. You're not complacent when you're up by 15. You're energized. Nobody really wants to vote for the losing team, especially pure independents, which, believe it or not, they do exist in this country. They may not exist in online circles, but they do fundamentally exist in this country, and their votes do count, and they matter just as much as people that are vastly enthused in politics. So when you look at this and you see Donald Trump losing Wisconsin by 20,000 votes in a state of roughly 5 to 6 million people, you do start to get very suspicious of what exactly went down in the state of Wisconsin when you see that poll, when you have the forecast being off by an immense margin. Again, in Michigan and Wisconsin, I called Michigan. Biden would win it by 1-2. Biden ended up winning by 2-3, but that is much more accurate than Biden plus 8. I said that Trump would end up winning Wisconsin by 1. I think Trump genuinely did win the state, but even going by the current state of affairs, Biden plus 0.6 is a lot closer to Trump plus 1.2 than it is to Biden plus 9. This is malpractice. This is ridiculous. These people need to be put out of business for good because they can alter the results. They can because their internal polls are fantasy, but they do shape the narrative. And it's absolutely ridiculous that a poll would miss by almost 17 percentage points from somebody that the supposed oracle of the country, Silver, rates as A+, and people in the election mafia everywhere, they still take this guy seriously. But this guy's actually out there framing the narrative. They're out there rigging the system so they can get rid of Trump, so they can get back to their business as usual, false dichotomy, neocon, neolib, screw over the American people constantly, get involved in all these foreign wars, etc. It's absolutely ridiculous. The pollsters missed completely, especially at the presidential level, more so than last time, partially because I think some of the polls are just made up to set a narrative, especially CNN's polls. And all the polls that had Biden winning by double digits, they were nonsense. And the Biden campaign was right when they said, no, the polls are inflated, it's going to be down the wire in the Rust Belt. And it was. Biden won Pennsylvania by less than 1, assuming this holds, which is not a sure thing, by the way, up in Wisconsin by less than 1, when the polls were saying that he had a good chance to sweep the Rust Belt by double digits. It never happened because it was fake from the beginning. It was fake from the start, and the campaign knew exactly what was going on, so much so to the point where they ignored Michigan and they focused on Pennsylvania, Georgia. They kind of ignored Florida because they knew it was gone. They did what they had to do to get their voters out. Now, is the victory going to stand? I don't think so. I'm not conceding. I'm not giving up on this. But you know that the campaign knew differently than the national polling, but a lot of the American people don't. Obviously, the more politically invested people know. All of you guys know. That doesn't mean that the people that work the third shift necessarily know, and they look at their TV and they say Biden's up by 20 in the state of Wisconsin, and they decide to say, oh, I'm not going to vote. I'm just going to sleep in and hope for the best. It's probably over. Because those people definitely do exist in this country. Absolutely. 100%. And they're rigging the system. Big tech is rigging the system. The media is rigging the system. Potentially the electoral system could be compromised itself. Again, I did a video on that, my last video. Not a whole lot of you guys saw it, so I'd recommend that you go and watch it. I'll put it on the end screen at the end of the video here. I'm not saying anything specifically went down, but everything that happened was not just completely normal, and we need a more transparent electoral system and a more fair electoral system, and that starts by getting rid of the election mafia, just tuning out the polls, tuning out 527, even more so than we do now, and start our own firms that will eventually gain credibility as time goes on. It's absolutely disgusting that Nate Silver sits up in his high chair and gives the ABC News poll, which is a corporate poll that he works for, an A+ rating, but at the same time slanders Trafalgar for getting the exact result correctly, turns around and slanders them, but writes an article defending the poll that had Biden up by 17%. These people are sick in the election mafia. They're absolutely disgusting. And you look at down ballot in the Senate, every seat so far seems like I've called it correctly. I said Collins would get more votes in the first ballot. I didn't think she'd have enough to win without ranked choice voting, but it looks like she has. So we got every Senate seat correctly, assuming Republicans hold in the Georgia runoffs, which I do believe they will. But we'll talk about them when we get a little bit closer to the Georgia election. In the House, Nate Silver said that the Republicans were going to lose an average of 5 seats, and as a result, Republicans in the House may get as many as 214 seats this cycle in the House. That would be a net gain of about 13 or 14, a massive gain in a presidential year. And no matter what happens, they are potentially in good shape to win the House in the 2022 midterms. A very, very good sign for the Republican Party. So either way, they failed miserably. We got the election almost perfect. But sometimes when you have these suppression polls, it can alter the results. And I think that may have happened in the state of Wisconsin. Absolutely, especially in some of these counties where the results came in a little bit unexpectedly. Either way, we need to audit our polling companies. We need to audit the polls next cycle because they were worse this cycle. Don't let them hide behind a potential Biden narrow victory so they can say the polls were right, because they were not right at all. They were wrong miserably. We called it. They didn't. End of discussion. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video down below, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media, become a member, donate to the Patreon, or subscribe. Star links in description. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.